we're going to trigger some nightmares for listeners at home because we're bringing up the Leaving Cert and the Junior Cert exams, which are getting underway at the start of June. But fear not, because we've got a tuition expert in with us. He'll be running us through all of the do's and don'ts. Dan Sheedy from Newmarket on Fergus, who is the principal of a local tuition centre. Dan, first of all, run us through the do's and don'ts. But actually, do you know what, Dan? But before you do, did you have the fear as well when, like, you were in your late teens, you were about to sit, maybe it was the Intercert once upon a time, but did you have the fear? Do you still have nightmares over it?
I still have the fear. I was a teacher for 25 years, and that just means you revisit the fear every single year from your own time doing the Leaving Cert and Junior Cycle. I'd be one of the people out there, like, it's really tough. It's tough on parents. I'll talk about that in a second. You know, last year I had a daughter doing Leaving Cert and a son doing the Junior Cycle, and changes the house. No doubt about it. Completely changed the house. Like every teacher, I thought, sure, I know it all. I'm teaching it 25 years. It's not until you have a child doing the Leaving Cert or the Junior Cycle, it just changes the house. It's an extraordinarily stressful time. And, you know, I always used to say to my students, if I was to go in and sit the Leaving Cert this year, I'd be nervous, and I'm teaching 25 years. So you can only imagine what the students are going through out there at the moment. And as I said, my heart, just based on my experience last year, my heart goes out to the moms and dads out there as well, because it's a tough household for the next 3 or 4 weeks there.
Dan, you don't have to tell me now. My sister's doing it at the moment.
Oh, so, God bless her.
Jeez, we've enough of that. I know, she's doing her best. But Dan, for students, what's the best way they can prepare right now? You're into the final few weeks. We often hear that expression that you can't fatten the pig before the fair. If you haven't started studying now, you're probably goosed. But how do you mentally prepare, and what's the best way to go about it?
Yeah, I never really bought into, like, obviously consistent study through the year is great. You know, you're working, the guys and the girls who are working all year, tipping away, it just makes the last 3 or 4 weeks easier. But I never bought into the fact that you can't do a lot in the last few weeks. You can do plenty in the last few weeks. What's important is you can't do everything. And there's really great kids out there, and they're thinking probably a week ago or maybe even this week, right, I have to get into it now. But oh my God, look at the length of that maths course, or look at the length of that geography course. What am I going to do? So the best bit of advice to those guys that are out there, maybe having a little bit of stress at the moment, is you don't have to do everything. I mean, Leaving Cert 2026, since COVID, we still have some of the arrangements in. So in most subjects, there's options. You don't have to learn as much as you used to learn before COVID. So all I would do is I'd contact my teacher. I mean, teachers are there to help, believe it or not, guys. I mean, everyone thinks the teachers know what's on the exam and they're not telling you. Of course they don't know what's on the exam. Everybody in the system is in it for the kid. So the person who sets your exam, and I set mock papers for 20 years, the person who's setting the Leaving Cert exams, they never sit down and say, do you know what, no, I'll get him this year. Not at all. All they want to do is have a fair paper. So the examiner's not going to set a hard paper. You know, the person who's correcting your Leaving Cert, they're in it for you. Trust me. They've got 400 scripts. They're trying to make a bit of extra money on their summer holidays. They just want to get the scripts corrected and get you on. They're not going to mark you hard. Your teacher is in it for you. Talk to your teacher. Just say to them, look, I'm a little bit worried. 2 weeks to go. I know I can't study everything. They're not going to tell you what's on the paper because they don't know. But they're experienced, and they'll say, look, maybe focus on X, Y and Z. And because of the options you have in those papers now, particularly in the Leaving Cert, you don't have to learn everything. What you choose to learn well, and don't panic about what you don't know. And that would be the main thing. Really good students out there will always kind of freak out about, oh my God, but what if this comes up and what if that comes up? And the answer to that is, so what? As long as you have a good bulk of material learned, you can not answer the stuff you don't know, answer the stuff you don't know. And even in the exam. I used to always say to the students, like, it's a Leaving Cert exam, it's a state exam, there's going to be moments, and you remember, Dara, when you read that page, you go, oh God, and you get that little double heartbeat, and you think you're in trouble. Remember that? I remember it myself. And so I always say to students there is, you have a choice in that moment. So in every exam, you're going to have that moment where you say, oh God, I'm in a bit of trouble here. So make the choice. You can either choose to react poorly and say, oh, I'm kind of feeling sorry for myself. Or you can choose to say, right, this is what that fella on Clare FM was talking about. It's a moment in the exam where it's difficult. I'm going to choose to react well. I'm going to fight really hard through this hard section, and then I'm going to go on to the next section and do my best. Because if it's hard for you, it's hard for everyone in the country.
Yeah, and I think we can never overstate the importance of going back over your kind of recent exam papers too. And I remember, and you highlighted it there, so like it's just flooding back to me the fear I had that the only 3 history essays that I learned from the 2 years of the senior cycle course, that if they didn't come up on the day, I was snookered. But when you do look back at the exam papers, you do realise that at least one or two of them will be there. You're never going to get a zero. Like.
It's a great point, actually. Like what I would say, it's a very, very good point. This year's Leaving Cert cohort, I suppose, nobody feels they're in a good place, but you are in a good place. It's good to be doing the Leaving Cert this year. Now, why? One is the reason I said already. You know, the arrangements from COVID are still in place, so there's options and there's timings and stuff. But the second one is most of these syllabuses have been there since 2005, 2006. Now, they're all changing at the moment. Next year, there's going to be a new physics exam, a new chemistry exam, a new business. But at the moment, they've been there for 20 years. So every question that has been asked or can be asked has already been asked. So as you said, your past papers are your best friend now, if you're a Leaving Cert student, because nothing new is going to come up this year. You know, trust me, 25, 26 years, you can't think of anything new to ask. You might think of something to ask in a different way. So those past papers, you're 100% right, they're your best friend. And if you were feeling a bit stressful about, oh my God, what if this comes up? Have a look at the past papers. And I used to always say, you're probably, all the students out there now, guys, you're probably looking at the Leaving Cert papers thinking, oh, I wish I did it last year, it was grand. I wish I did it the year before, it was grand, as you're looking at the papers. Well, next year's crowd are going to look at your paper and say, do you know what, I wish I did Leaving Cert 2026, it was grand. It's just a bit challenging because you're doing it this year, and that's where the nerves come in.
On the nerves, even like going out to play a match, you often hear that expression, play the game, not the occasion. How, I suppose, do you translate that for students who, I remember my own year going into some things absolutely bricking it, if that's the appropriate way to phrase it, but just full of nerves, and do you know, you're almost feeling like, is this pen even going to write for me at all? Like, how do you do that?
I suppose I would use a lot of sporting analogies, to be fair, and you know, I actually did a podcast recently with a guy from Cork called Jamie Wall. Jamie Wall would be very well known. Poor Jamie was paralysed from a young age. He was a real rising sports star. And I asked him about the Leaving Cert. I said, you know, if you were to give advice to Leaving Certs, Jamie, because he did very good Leaving Certs, he's a really smart guy. And he said, I'd have kept playing my sport right up. He said, a lot of Leaving Certs in junior cycle is a month out from the exam. That's it. No more training, no more matches. And he said, why? I mean, you got to get out. You can't lock yourself in and be in books all the time. So he said, number one, get out and play your sport. If you have a training 2 nights before the Leaving Cert, how bad? Go to training. Meet your mates, have a laugh. The second sporting analogy is exactly what you said. I hear so many students saying, I need a H1 in this subject, or I'm goosed, or I need to get a H2 in Irish. So what you're doing then is you're focusing on obviously the outcome instead of the process. You know, in sport, if you're trying to say, I need to win this match, you're probably not going to win the match because you're so nervous about it. So you focus on the process. So for Leaving Cert students, I would say, you know, focus on the exam itself. You're all going to have timing going in. You're going to know I have to spend this time in section 1, this time in section 2, this time in section 3. Don't worry about the result will be. Don't worry about the grade in each subject. And I know it's a cliche, you know, but cliches exist for a reason. They're nearly all true. You know, you just literally do your best. You do your best for the next few weeks. Then you do your best in each exam. And you know what, at the end of that, Dara, every student in Ireland who does the Leaving Cert, they're going to have a number of points in their hand. And it doesn't matter if they're 250 points or 400 points or 600 points. It doesn't matter. You've earned them and they're yours. And you can do anything with your life now with those points. You know, there's so many pathways now to go to third level, to not go to third level, to do anything you want. You look at those points in your hand and say, I earned these because I tried my best. And now I can do anything I want with my life. And it's a wonderful experience. I saw it with my daughter last year. You know, when the Leaving Cert exam is over, the exams are over, the sense of freedom these students will get, because, you know, you'd envy them. Their whole life is ahead of them now, and it's going to be a wonderful time for them.
Okay, I think an easy thing for us to forget as well, and you mentioned the outlet of sport there as well, is that teenagers do have a very tough life. Like, I mean, at that age, your social life is look, it's almost the All-Ireland final every day, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of pressure to fit in everything else. Not everybody has the outlet of sport. That's not something that everybody plays. So for others that I suppose, look, are in that room studying for hours a day, are aiming for high points total and just feel really under pressure, how do they relax? Yeah,
I would say, and again, it's a great point. I'd be quoting Shakespeare, like, comparisons are odious. So those really high achiever students, they tend to compare themselves. They tend to say, you know, my friend is really, really good, got 600 points in her mocks, or my sister got medicine, or my sister got pharmacy. So the very first thing I would say to those high achievers is, number one, you don't compare yourself to anybody. You're you know, and you're going to get the points that you deserve. It doesn't matter what your brother or sister got. Then I would ask myself, particularly, you know, about courses, you know, what do I want to do? Not what I should do. There's so many students, Dara, who feel because they're strong, because they study really hard, I should go for medicine, or I should go for physiotherapy, or I should go for pharmacy. And they feel that weight of expectation. Sometimes it comes from the parents, but rarely, to be fair. Parents are great. It seems to be something really high-achieving students put on themselves, that just because they're very good at school, they should aim for a really, really high course. And what that happens then is they might get 590 points, which is absolutely off the charts. I wasn't near it myself, but then they feel like they've failed if they haven't got the 600, which is an awful thing. So there's a lot of conversation about Leaving Cert Reform, a lot of conversation in the last 2 weeks, given the controversy about the CEO and the universities pushing up points. There is a conversation to be had about the expectations we place on every student, but I would say a neglected conversation is one, the really gifted, really strong students. We do have a culture almost in Ireland of, if you're really strong, you have to do medicine, you have to do pharmacy. You don't. I'd love to see a student get 600 points and say, do you know what, I'm happy to go and do arts, because at this point in my life, I don't know what I want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong, guys out there, Leaving Cert students, not knowing what you want to do. It's perfectly normal. You guys are 18, maybe 19. None of us had a clue what I wanted to do. I'm 46 myself. I barely have an idea yet. So don't put pressure on yourselves.
And I think it's worth saying before we go that the only night of your life where you're ever really going to be asked what did you get is that Leaving Cert results night, and maybe at your debs after that, it fades away once you go to college, once you go into the trades or wherever you go next, and no one really cares again.
No, you're 100% right, and you mentioned trades there, and I think it's an absolutely brilliant thing that's come in back into Ireland in the last 6, 7, 8 years. I mean, back when I was doing the Leaving Cert, it was the beginning of the culture whereby everybody had to go to third level. And it was an awful thing that came in. That everyone had to, and if you didn't go to third level, your Johnny didn't go to third level. Whereas now there's a wonderful acceptance of different career paths. Trades. Tradesmen will make a lot more than a lot of people over the next 5 to 10 years. And I suppose the last thing, because I know we're tight for time, I would wish every single Leaving Cert and junior cycle student the best, but I would definitely also wish every parent out there the best. Bring them for the chicken roll. If they want to have that high energy drink, even though we know it's bad for them, just let them have it for the next few weeks. It'll be worth it.